Hello, everyone. It's that magical time of the week again when we all come together as one to transform into a larger robot so that we better can fight the forces of evil together. I think it's that time, right? So I've tweeted the tweets. I got the audio synchronized, I think. You guys gotta tell me if that's broken. And we're ready to go. So, gotta rename the stream. Microjam. If you're talking in the chat, I haven't seen it because I kept refreshing the page. I'm sorry about that. There we go. It's all good. The thing is done, and the tweets are tweeted, and everything is set up. That's pretty cool. Yes. So, I did something earlier today, which is installed the new version of Haxi, or Hax. I think it's Hex. I'm gonna find that out right now. I don't know. There are many threads about this on the internet. Nobody seems to agree. Language, type system, function types, abstract types. I don't, no, let's ignore that. Hi Arc Games, hi Ivan, something, C, Dev. Yes, I was saying, I installed 3.2 of Haxi, which is the new cool version that has new stuff, which means that this game probably is broken a little bit. So that's what we're going to start out with. I may have compiled this beforehand to see what's going to happen. So we're getting an error here that is constraint check failure for class blah blah blah. So what I have here is that I have a class that is collection, and collection is using generics or templates depending on what your programming language calls them. So this class will take a type parameter, and I have a little limitation here saying that it has to implement the interface that is collection item, which means that it basically needs to have the onRemove function, an update function, and a public variable that's called isAlive. It needs to have those. If it doesn't, it can't go in the function or in the collection basically. And then I have extended this collection to another called sprite collection that does all the things that collection will do, but also has the requirement that this class is a sprite. This is problematic because now you can fulfill one of these. So it can either be a sprite or it can implement the interface. And Haxi old version 3.13 or whatever was fine with that. New version is not. So this actually I need to change to be actor. So actor is a class that I've made that extends sprite and implements iCollection item. So this just makes this class a little less generic and a little more specific. But for this game, I think that should be fine. It runs. Controllers seem to work, so that was a fairly smooth affair. Uh-oh. So, let's do the normal thing and look at what we did last week. I suppose we can. No, let's look at what we did last week first before we commit that. This is not true. What happened to you? So as I recall, there's a few more commits between now and... Oh, I gotta check that, I think. No? What? What? What did I do? Filter. No. This is strange. Let's see what the terminal says. This has it. Okay, so we'll do it this way. It's a little bit annoying. Here we go. That's odd. I don't know why. So these commits are all from last week. So first thing we did last week was to oh right, so I broke the score lines, like the little thing that goes from the black hole to the player when I was changing the way the scoring management was working. I just disabled that while doing that, and then I forgot to like re-enable it once everything was set up again. So I took some time to fix that. No big deal really. It was basically just not running that code. The code itself was mostly fine. This adds a little number to the player when they score, which you might have seen before when I was playing. Like so. Grab this guy, chuck it into the pit, and if you look there, you can see 170k. Just pretty cool. And I think I also, yeah, so that wasn't much of a, it's a fairly straightforward process. And then I made the negative scores look more negative. So we'll take a look at that as well. I really should possibly consider to keep the game running between. So this guy goes into the pit without me, preferably. Oh, damn it, minus 260k. So here we go. This will be nice and readable. It's just like vibrating to show you that this is not good. So that's cool. Correctly positions and displays the winner after the round ends. So this is something that was apparently more broken before than I had really understood. So when I did this, like the round end code, that was like the very last thing I did for Mojam. So it's really stressed out, and I did it in a kind of sloppy, dirty way, which worked fine, but for like the new implementation of the game, it wasn't cutting it. It was just a giant mess. So I tore out a whole bunch of stuff from the, I think it was in some weird, strange place, this thing. You can just watch the last week's episode. And you'll see it was a mess. So I moved that to where it should be, or to a place where it made more sense. And that also helped a lot with the weirdness of the round endings. And it turns out the problem with so the thing that would happen was that the score for each player, like in their respective corners, would scale up when they won, and that was all working fine. The only thing that wasn't happening is that it had code to like reposition them so they would be placed correctly. That code was working, it just wasn't running. So once I found that that was the problem, that was an easy fix too. But along with that came this sort of general cleanup of that part of the code, which was nice. It was long overdue. And then I updated my little to-do list, so I got rid of that, and especially like this resize thing that's been in here forever. So that was nice to get rid of. That was last week. This week, I'm not entirely sure what we're gonna do. One thing that I did think of was to subtract respawn cost when actually respawning. So this is something I came to think of as I was playtesting this with a friend. So the general idea was that now, if you were playing like so, and you go like, oh, 230K, that's flippin' sweet, and then you go into the black hole yourself, oh no, it will charge you 150K immediately. My idea was to delay that charge until you press to respawn, and then it will charge you half of what you have, which I hope maybe could make that connection a little bit more solid for the players. Like, okay, it's something I did. Like, I'm not entirely sure it's a good idea, because I want it to be like the punishment is for getting eaten by the black hole. I think that's maybe a problematic connection, because that's what I want to punish. I don't want you, like, I don't particularly mind you respawning, really. I do mind you getting sucked up by the black hole. Maybe. I'm still not entirely convinced, so I'll put that down with a question mark. Just so I can remember it. What's happening with my camera alignment here? I'm shrinking as I'm streaming. I think that's what's happening. So this is kind of dealt with in a way with the bad numbers. I think. I suppose I could make them look different too. Add idle timeout. That's really boring and really easy, so we're not going to do that today. I am considering, so last week I did a presentation at something called Nordic Indie Night with my friend Petri, and we did a presentation on local multiplayer games and things you should think about when you are making a local multiplayer game. And there's many things you should think of when making a local multiplayer game, but one of the things that I think I really need in this game is this this thing. Let's see if I can make it go. So I don't know if you guys can read this. I'll make it a little bit bigger. So these guys, Juicy Beast Studios, clever people. And I wanted to show you something. So they have this game, and you can dash in all directions all the time. You can dash up, you can dash down, you can dash left and right, and that's basically the way you move around. So the problem they had, this is like the quick version of this blog post, is that people don't understand that they can dash. They just jump around, which makes sense. So they go through all of these like iterations to like force the players to try dashing, and this is like fine. Here, dash up to join, dash down to quit. That's cool. So players can try that, and they'll know that that is a thing they can do, and they have to do it to join the game. The problem they had is players didn't really get it still. They were just like dashing just up or dashing just down, and they didn't understand they were actually operating the menu. They were dashing in French, all kinds of weird things would happen. So to skip to the end, here we go. So this is what they ended up with. So you start as like a nondescriptal dead stone or whatever, and when you start moving the stick, you get legs, so you can walk around. See here, he's kind of gray. And then he'll pick a color, or she'll pick a color, I don't know, and they'll turn that color. So this is a really clever menu system because you can sort of try out the controls, you can figure out who you are, you can do all these things, and it's perfectly safe because the game hasn't started yet. That's not the way my game works at all currently. And this, to me, this feels like the gold standard way of doing it, like the best way. Which, like, the drawback is probably it takes a little bit longer to start a game, but in a way that's fine. It doesn't really matter. They are actually using the start button here to confirm, which is, I suppose, is cool too. Because that's kind of the problem. They don't really have a way of moving on from this menu. But that, I suppose that's fine. So what I need to be thinking about, and I might not be doing that on stream today because I think it's gonna take some doing, but something like this is what I ideally would like in my game. A safe space to try the controls, like fly around a little bit. Then once everyone's decided, and sort of had a moment to like understand what's going on, you can start the game. And I don't know how that's gonna work, but I think it could work. And if you guys have any opinions on that, I'll happily consider them. Oh, my screen went black. That's not good. Okay, that's fine. I don't know what just happened. Yeah, I need to think about this because I suppose it's been a long time since I did terrible art. I think we need to do something about that. So I'm thinking you just spawn all by your lonesome in space. Your little ship, like right here. When you press, you just go boop. You touch anything, like touch the stick or touch the buttons, any button. It'll go boop, will appear. Or maybe all the ships are present already. Maybe that makes more sense. They're like turned off, grayed out. Maybe that's more logical. And then you can fly around, and I suppose either latch onto something to pick a team, or fly into an area to pick a team, or as Art Games is suggesting, drill through an asteroid. Drilling through an asteroid would be good because that would sort of force you to try that mode of interaction, like if you don't understand how to drill through an asteroid, you're not going to be able to play the game. So that's something I want to what you call gating. So basically, if you don't know how to do this, you can't pass. So that's definitely something I want to, or at least would consider gating players on. I don't think it's absolutely essential because it's more like, to me, it's more about having the players fly around for a little bit, figure out who they are, figure out how to move around at all. That's like the rudimentary interaction they need to understand. But maybe drilling is the way to go. This is tricky. Because what would it be then? Would it be like each team is a sphere? Because you fly over, you drill it, you go poof, you've joined. What happens to the thing you drilled into? Is it going to split? Bjorgen is suggesting drop colored asteroids into a black hole to pick a team, which might work. I also like, I could definitely make it so that there's a big asteroid of each color that's kind of too big to move. It's just really heavy, and you gotta like lop off a corner and drop that into a black hole to join a team. But that's like a full 10 or 15 seconds of work for each player, which feels like if you know what you're doing, ideally you can pick a team in like a second. That's the ideal. It might not be achievable, but it's something I would like to aim for at least. But maybe just landing on a colored asteroid will attach you to that team, and then so there's like, instead of a black hole at the center, there are 4 asteroids representing each team, or 4 little things representing each team. Maybe they're not even, maybe you don't even attach to them. Maybe you should attach to them. They could also just be areas, like you fly through it and you become that color. And then you can just fly around and do whatever until somebody presses to start. And try the splitting thing. I guess I could also, I don't have support for it yet, but I could do a thing where I do an asteroid that's like, and the player is like locked inside of it. So you got this little player in here. So to get out, and the asteroid's too big, like you can't move it or whatever. So to get out, you'd have to like drill your way out. That means A, supporting multi-part asteroids, and B, you're gonna have to drill it or cut it twice to get out, because cutting it like that, it's not gonna do anything. It's just gonna stay in one piece. So you're gonna think like, oh, it didn't do anything. Or even if you understand, it's gonna be like fly up, press, hold, roll, blah, blah, let go, boom, fly to the other side, press, hold, blah, blah, boom, fly out into the air. It's just gonna be, it's gonna take too long, I think. So right now I'm partial to the like little playground mode with colored team areas in the center. Maybe like even gates or something that you can drive through that will color your ship to a specific color. Could be cool. Which is dropping the, so before I was kind of keen on having it so that you could switch teams as you were playing. But I think that's going to be I don't know who would want to use that because there's this like conflict in it. So it'd be super useful for someone that's new and just want to play with their friends, but they're also going to be new, so they're not going to know what the controls are. So they're going to be really confused, and having buttons on the controller that will switch your team is like a surefire way to make someone mess up in a bad way the first thing they do. So I don't think that's a good idea at all. Or it sort of like conflicts with itself in a weird way. So I don't think I'm going to do that. But I do sort of like the color picking idea, because then I can do, so right now I have 4 teams. I can implement it like a 5th team. So the 5th, like team number 5 will never be actually present when the game starts for real. And I could also make it so that you stay the color you were last round. So if you really quickly want to start a new round, you can just do that. And I also don't want to, like Jorgen is suggesting here, drop asteroids into colored black holes or having smaller black holes along the top, which is a perfectly valid way of doing it. I'm just worried it's going to confuse players because it's going to be like, oh, this is the game. It's like, no, it's the menu. And they're going to be, that change is going to confuse them. Which I guess is a possibility with my solution too. I just don't want to make it too weird. Plus, I don't actually have support for multiple black holes yet. I kind of do, but not quite. I guess that's something I'm going to have to implement one day or another either way, but not today, I don't think. Right now, I sort of feel like I could just talk this entire stream away. Hasn't been much programming so far, but let's first commit this. So this is Haxi 3.2.0 compatibility. That's a hard word to spell. This is added new idea to do. To do. I have many programs on my computer. None of them I understand. So let's start up this little game of ours. So that means I could have, just no black hole right here. Because I'm worried having the black hole is going to be like a real, a problem, let's put it that way. So then I could just put those little gates or areas or whatever in the center of. I think that's a good idea. I also want to try the dash thing at some point. Because you are kind of slow right now. Wow, wow, wow. The control vibration is a very nice addition. I am happy I took the time to do that. Happy. 68K. Not a very good deal, I'd say. Let's do it anyway. So, let's see what happens if I remove the black hole. Just turn it off. Black hole. This is going to crash. More than likely, it's going to crash. It didn't? Wow. So the little attract to center thing, because that's currently in the player, is still happening. So it's pulling me in even though it's not there. So that's something we need to look into, and that's also going to sort of flow into to adding multiple black holes, because having it on the player really doesn't make much sense. So I think it's called center force or something. Here, center force, distance to center, blah, 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 blah. So I think it's this little bit of code only. And I reckon we could just move this to the black hole with some smaller corrections. And this already has a list of the players, so that's cool. So for player in players, right, so this is also doing the outer bound, which I suppose is fine. Like, it sets a maximum distance you can go away from the black hole, and it will just aggressively pull you closer if you're beyond it. So it's essentially like this donut that you can be in safely. If you go into the hole of the donut, it will pull you in, and if you go past like the edge of the donut, it will also pull you in. To make sure that you kind of stay inside of that. Rich Tramp, thank you for following. Much appreciated. So World Center, is that something? I think this uses the World Center too, doesn't it? Oh, it uses its own center, so that's... also center. Oh, right, so it's Fispos, which is kind of a... I guess that's an okay name. So instead of World Center, we go Fispos, place. We don't need that, we don't need that. Okay, that's good. And then instead of body, it's player body. Get World Center. And then I'm using this thing called center force, which comes from here, so that's fine. I think if this compiles now, it does. This is going to attract the black hole to the players instead. It's going to be hilarious. I don't think we're going to... Oh, let's try it. See what happens. It's not going to be good. It is going to be bad. Oh, but the black hole's turned off. I'm excited for this. It's not moving. I am incredibly disappointed. Okay. I think This should be fine. Just trace out the distance to center. See what it's up to. So that seems to be working. Yeah, it's definitely grabbing me too. Oh, I know why I couldn't move it. It's because interestingly, the black hole is not a physics object. So adding, I don't know, how could that even? Maybe it is a physics object. It's just, yeah, I think that's what it is. It is just a circle with collision turned off and no mass, so it won't move. It's a static object, which is sad, but I suppose that's okay. I really gotta work some more on the asteroid spawning, because there's really no, like, why would I ever go for this asteroid when I can go for this asteroid? So there's not much actual cutting, which is kind of a bummer when that's what the game used to be about. Now it's mostly about flying. But that works, and I think that this just makes more sense. And I suppose we can also do if player is faded or player is not alive. We just skip them because there's no. We don't care about them. Black holes are now respawn for attracting players towards themselves. Not whatever. Oh, sorry about the screen resolution. I normally do that. My screen resolution is very big. 560 by some other big number. And now I managed to minimize all my windows. That's not inconvenient at all. So, if I turn off the black hole now, like so, it should be fine. Although, I realize now, because the black hole was doing the distance clamping, this means you can just fly off into eternity. Silly me. Yeah, that's not gonna work. Player. So am I gonna have to do this twice? Maybe I am. It's not that. It's not that bad. Let's just do it twice. That's the proper way. So centered force, distance to center. This is going to go in the player itself. So this is going to calculate the center to the It's going to do this calculation twice every frame, but that's okay. Did I just flip those two around? And that's just body, and that's just body. I'm happy that you are happy about the resolution. People in the chat. Sorry about that. See, so no black hole. And if I go too far, nothing happens. That's problematic. I think I'm... No, I'm not. Oh, I removed the wrong part. Silly me, silly me. So this is what we need. World center, that's going to be like that, that's going to be like that. Black hole is doing the fancy thing. It's less than the inner bound. This is if it's bigger than the outer bound. So this should be better. This is what we need, I think. We'll see. This ad hoc style of game development. Yeah, it's definitely messing with me now. It's pushing me back in. It's kind of weird too, because I can like, if I stop right at the edge, like right here, and go, I can't get that far. But if I go back in and kind of, I can get much further. But as soon as I let go, I'll just get pushed back into the center. So that if you want to be silly and drive off screen, you can, but you'll eventually just get pulled back in, which I think is fine. So committing that. And now I guess we can amend that last commit, because I kind of messed it up. Gotta get a feel for it, just being few players running around here. Yeah, so maybe little things you can touch something that will put you on different teams. The question is how to start. Maybe there should be... There are many things, like I could make a portal you can drive into that will start the game. That will only appear if... I suppose it can be present. That's also kind of a question, right? Because it is entirely possible that you want to play this game for a round by yourself. Like, just you. No one else. So that means as soon as somebody picks a color, the portal will open. It's also entirely possible that you would want to play this game two people on the same team, just like a score attack thing, trying to see what the best score you can get is. So it's not really gonna not gonna be much of a, because like if it was that you needed 2 players and they needed to be on 2 different teams, I could limit that by just disabling the starting until you had like a valid setup. But the thing is, like almost any setup is valid, so that's not super valuable. This is tricky. Pixel Mixer is asking, have I thought about looping the player back to the other side if they go past the screen bounds? Yes, I have, and with a physics engine, that is a pain in the behind, because doing just the player would be fine most of the time. I mean, there's a chance there's going to be something at the other side of the screen, I guess, but it gets really tricky when the player is attached to an asteroid, because then I got to move both of them, and the asteroids can get kind of big, and it's solvable. You can absolutely do it. It's just more effort than I think it's worth, and really, to me, it's pretty rare that you ever do that in a game, like, even if it has wrapping. If the game isn't really forcing you to do it, it's just very confusing to do. So I feel kind of fine just omitting that. So it is mostly for simplicity, like technical simplicity, that I'm not allowing that. So I want to, no, like this. Can 2 players grab the same asteroid? Yes, they can. You can do all kinds of crazy things. Now I'm on the keyboard here, but if this guy goes up here, grabs this asteroid, and then I can take the second guy, he can come up, and now he's attached to the same asteroid, so he'll follow along, and we can drive together to move asteroids faster. Which is much easier if you're one person. And this also gives you kind of extra mass, so you can shove around asteroids better, stuff like that. Pro strat. What I wanted to do here was to do this, and then this, and that. So here I have a vector screenshot. Where's the newsletter sign up so you can get a message when it's done? Shot by gun is asking. There's no such thing yet, but that's a good idea. I should set that up. So now we're going to open, what's it called? Flash PDF. And I don't know if you guys can see this on stream, but these colors look really weird. It's because it's like in printing preview or whatever, so I gotta set it to be like that, and then it looks kind of acceptable. I think the background color is still wrong though. Does not matter. What matters is I can draw on top of this, which is very awesome. So to pick a team, my like original thought was something like this, and then like that, and then 2 more for their respective colors, whatever they are. I can probably just open that other document and get them from there. Slicer. other... I can't remember. Maybe I did change these. Maybe I didn't. Probably didn't, because they look very samey. You could just keep those two guys, I suppose, for testing purposes. So something like so this is when I want the normal mode, so you can see what I'm doing entirely. Can two players drill the same asteroid? Kind of. So when someone drills an asteroid, they will make the other player release from that asteroid. So you can start drilling at the same time, but as soon as someone lets go, you'll be kicked off that asteroid and your drilling will be canceled. And ideally, it doesn't crash, but I make no promises. So this doesn't make a ton of sense. Like, what is this? These aren't really asking you to drive through them. So maybe that's a bad idea. What if I did something like... Maybe it's not even... I managed to spin it like half a pixel. I'll make these some like inert color. I think that's too fat. Because I want it to look like kind of a gate or something. I think it's a little bit too big. Maybe that makes sense. I could do 4 of these, like group, group, group. Kind of like that, even possibly a little bit further apart. And you'd have to fly through one of them to pick a team. Undo group, ungroup. Maybe. What's going on here? This super thin. Oh, I know what it is. This is the... So because I took a vector screenshot, that is the trail, but it's super short. So it's like compressed into one little pile, basically. I'm not convinced. Not quite. So maybe they shouldn't have the rounded corners. Maybe these should be like semicircles. Or maybe none of that matters at all. This is like a typical thing you need to playtest, because you can't really predict what people are gonna extrapolate from your crappy graphics. This looks like a funnel little hat on it. Wow, almost an hour already, and we barely programmed at all. Such is the nature of game development. Sometimes there's not much programming. I think this is maybe my favorite one so far. And with these, I kind of would have to do collision on the edges, but with this variation, it could just be like if you touch it, you buy it. It is very practical to do vector screenshots. I can recommend it. I wonder if assigning the colors after the game actually starts would be better. Pixel Mixer is asking. How? After one player starts, the other starts to get sucked into the black hole unless they also start. So this, like, to be clear, like this wouldn't actually start the game or anything. All the players would start being like grayed out, and by flying through the gate, you would get a color. Which I think might make sense. Trent Sterling is asking what microphone I have. I have this guy right here. It's called the Rode Podcaster, and it is good piece of hardware. A little bit expensive, but it will also just last for a long time. I hope. That's how I convinced myself to buy it. I suppose I could also do this. Are they grouped? No, they're not. Group, group, group. Hang on for some crazy Illustrator tricks. Transform each. This is crazy. Get some of that swastika action going. Maybe not. Maybe that's nicer. And I could even have like a little start the game pit thing here. So you could go fly in through here and go whoop, and be teleported into somewhere. Maybe. See if I separate these out a little bit more. See what that looks like. Maybe this is the way to go. They have to be, yeah. This is hard. This is really hard. I'm not entirely sure what to do. So I'm going to stew on this for a while. I'm going to save this in a proper folder so I won't lose it. Other, it can be that, color picking. And we'll come back to that next week. So one thing I've been meaning to do since forever is the idle timeout, and that feels like an easy thing to do before we end for today, because we've been going for an hour already. Hang on, Pixar Mixer is saying something. So, start of game, player characters are grayed out, asteroids are colored to the different types, player grabs asteroid of favorite color to select the color. Other players can either grab colored asteroid also or just sit. If they just sit, the game continues to start. Grayed players get sucked into black hole if they don't want to play. Maybe. Maybe. I think that the thing that sort of turns me off about that is having the asteroids work in different ways. So if I do it the way I have kind of half planned right now, I would introduce a new thing you can interact with that does, well, it does a new thing, and the asteroids would stay the same, so that you wouldn't get confused about what the asteroids do when the colored asteroids disappear. And having one player play at a time isn't really a problem, because it's something I kind of want to allow. I suppose I want to encourage multiple players. See if I can remember how this all fits together. Right. So right now I am actually receiving an event every time someone presses a button, which isn't perfect, because ideally, like if I want to do the idle timeout, I would I'd also need to be listening to like motion, like the ships moving about. But I suppose pressing the button is something you do continuously as you're playing. So well, this will make do for now. So what we'll do is that we'll create a timer, like right here. And I want the OpenFL timer. Idle timer is a new timer, and this is not true. It is giving me the wrong. Am I using both types of timers here? Yeah, here. So I have to go Haxi timer delay. And we can probably sort this out. And I get rid of that. And there should be a second timer import up here. Maybe. Like that. Yeah, here we go. So settings, time out, idle, milliseconds. Static, public, inline var timeout idle milliseconds is integers, and I suppose what would a good timeout be? Nobody presses anything for 2 minutes. 2 times 60 times 1,000. And if that happens, the game will just reset itself. I'm sorry about the resolution again. And this timer needs to repeat infinitely. Idle timer, add event listener, timer event, timer. That's an idle timeout. And then we'll have another function that is reset idle timeout. That will take the timer and go reset, and then idle timer start. And this will, for now, just go reset. And, whoops. So anytime anyone presses anything, we'll do that. So we'll restart the timer. Now, I'm not going to wait 2 minutes to try this. I am going to wait 10 seconds. Ideally, you want to show a warning before this is about to happen. So I'm going to press now. Do I have a second counter somewhere? So that's one. Yeah, that was probably correct. So 35, 36. So 8, 9, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, reset. That works. And ideally, like if nobody presses anything for 2 minutes, I'm fine with resetting the game. And if you don't want to use it, you can just define in the configuration file like a really high value. And I'll do it like that, so you can actually change it from the config. Idle time added. Playing with concepts for color picking. So, I'm going to push these changes, which looks way cooler when you do it in the command line, but what can you do? I'm going to send a text message. Well, maybe not. Ivan C. Dev, you have come perfectly in time for the end of this stream. I think we did well today. Lots of talking, not that much programming, but still, like we made some progress. This game is getting, it's a stupid thing to say, but it's getting more and more done by the minute, which is kind of always true, but And also updating to Haxi, like latest version, didn't really break that much, unless it was like these subtle breakages that we haven't noticed. So that's good. That's very good. R2 Robot, thank you for following. Much appreciated. As usual, this video is going to go on YouTube. I'll start the upload after I finish here, and you'll be able to watch all this again, or if you missed it, you will be hearing this on YouTube, so that's cool too. You can subscribe, do all that stuff. My Twitter's down below. The YouTube links are also down below. If you are familiar with a video game I have made in the past called Rymdkapsel, you will be happy to know that next week there will be an update for that for iOS and Android, adding new cool stuff, which is, yeah, it's on Thursday next week. So when I'm streaming next week, that update will have hit. Maybe we'll do some kind of Rymdkapsel special next week. We'll find out. It's not like I very, very little planning for these streams ahead of time, but we'll see. It'll be a surprise for everyone. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. If you have any questions, talk to me on Twitter, send me a message here on Twitch. I'll try and help you out as best I can. I'll see you guys next week.